Welcome to today's video about the 5 hidden levels of your dreams. The act of dreaming is a profound paradox. To illustrate, we have mapped the farthest star clusters in the observable universe with greater certainty than we have the topography of your own mind at night. We understand more about the behavior of subatomic particles we can't see than we do about your nightly narratives. We even have more data on the complex ecosystems thriving in the crushing pressure of the deep sea than we do on these fleeting stories we tell ourselves. And yet, dreaming is a universal human constant. It is the most intimate experience we all share, instantly familiar, yet stubbornly resistant to definition. For much of modern science, dreams were dismissed as mere neurological static, random, incoherent, and utterly without purpose. But if that were the case, why does your brain induce a state of near total paralysis during REM sleep?
Why would it expend precious metabolic resources to run these elaborate fictions instead of focusing on cellular repair? And why does REM sleep manifest in the womb, long before any lived experience could possibly inform it? The truth is, the world of dreams is far more complex and structured than you might imagine. From countless online forums where people describe seeing the same unknown figure for years, to vast academic archives holding tens of thousands of clinical dream reports, it's clear that unrelated individuals often find themselves in identical scenarios, following the same emotional scripts. So, what is truly happening when we close our eyes? And how far must we travel into the subconscious to understand it? As it turns out, dreams possess a distinct hierarchy. They have levels that descend far deeper, become far stranger, and hold more significance than we have ever been led to believe.
The 5 levels of dreaming are not arbitrary. They follow a specific, escalating sequence. But before this journey can even commence, we must acknowledge the 2 fundamental states of being: wakefulness and sleep. Less commonly understood, however, is a third, liminal state, a strange borderland known as hypnagogia. This is the transitional phase as you drift from being awake into sleep, or emerge from it. What's fascinating is that while you are not yet fully asleep in this state, your brain is flooded with raw, unstructured sensory information, most notably in the form of geometric patterns. Yes, I am referring to these specific visual phenomena, which constitute Level 1, the pulsating, kaleidoscopic chaos you witness on the threshold of sleep. It was the psychologist Heinrich Klüver who, in the 1920s, systematically cataloged this experience.
He identified 4 recurring forms that appear as one enters an altered state: kaleidoscopic grids, web-like structures, vortexes, and spiraling forms, all of which he termed the precursors to our internal worlds. The precise reason for this remains a mystery, but one leading theory suggests it originates in the visual cortex. Due to the brain's neuroplasticity, if a region like the visual cortex goes unused for too long, as in individuals who are blind, adjacent brain areas will begin to co-opt that neural real estate for their own functions. Therefore, it's hypothesized that we dream as a protective measure, a way to keep the visual cortex stimulated and defend its territory while our eyes are closed. But while this may explain the evolutionary origin of dreaming, it fails to account for the rich content of dreams, or the involvement of so many other brain regions. Nevertheless, these geometric patterns are the antechamber to the mind's theater. They are all that comprises Level 1. Some of us recall passing through them. Others do not. But only after you traverse this gateway does the dream truly begin. In Level 2, you are dreaming, but it's a dream in its infancy. You exist in a place, you may even have a sense of self, but the world is still under construction. At this level, the environment itself is the primary focus, but it feels strange, partial, and conspicuously unpopulated. This is the origin of the dreamscape concept, an artistic genre defined by its surrealism, often featuring recognizable locations rendered with vibrant, unnatural colors. While many focus on the familiar yet distorted houses or the skewed proportions, what is most compelling are the elements that are absent. I'm no art critic, but I understand the principle of negative space, where the emptiness surrounding a subject helps to define it by contrast. It creates a visual balance that directs the eye. Artists can manipulate this by using too much or too little of it.
Too little negative space can evoke a sense of claustrophobia. Too much can create a profound feeling of isolation and emptiness. In dreamscape art, images feel familiar partly because the vast negative space provides the room for you to project your own emotions onto the scene. And in level 2 of dreaming, this is precisely what is occurring. Dream scientists refer to it as the void behind perception. The Finnish neuroscientist Antti Revonsuo calls it selective simulation. Put simply, your brain is starting to build a world, and it uses the most potent and readily available material it has: memories. But not just any memories. It draws on those heavily tagged with emotion, which are stored in the amygdala rather than the hippocampus. At this stage, the dream is an unrendered void. But it is this very emptiness that acts as a canvas. The brain projects its raw emotions onto this void, generating a simple, sparsely detailed landscape of feeling.
Pure, primal, chaotic emotion, stitched together from your deepest memories, with no narrative, no structure, and no other characters. It bubbles to the surface, forming the bedrock upon which all other levels of the dream will be built. What you experience here is merely the foundation. A bizarre phenomenon that perfectly illustrates level 3 is the teeth falling out dream, a topic with thousands of online discussions dedicated to it. In these dreams, people report a sudden, horrifying sensation of their teeth becoming loose, crumbling, or falling out into their hands. As they try to speak or stop it from happening, the situation only worsens. At first, they might feel a single tooth wobble. In response, the dreamer panics, but as they do, more teeth begin to disintegrate. In a desperate attempt to hide this or seek help, they often find they cannot speak, or they look in a mirror to see a horrifying, empty smile. And no matter what they do, the dream ends with a feeling of profound loss and helplessness. By itself, this is a deeply unsettling dream, but where it becomes truly significant is in its repetition. Months later, the same person might find themselves in an identical emotional scenario, but this time it manifests as their hair falling out in clumps or their fingernails peeling off. The context changes, but the core feeling and outcome remain the same. It's widely believed that dreams about this kind of bodily decay are linked to anxieties about a loss of control, a fear of being judged, or an inability to communicate effectively. The specific manifestation depends on your personal anxieties. This phenomenon captures the essence of level 3. It is metaphorical. With raw emotion now established as the foundation, your brain attempts to give it shape. To achieve this, it amplifies the emotion until it's coherent enough to be processed. Lacking language, the brain distills these feelings into one of 5 core themes: identity, desire, fear, loss, or conflict. It takes the same memory fragments from level 2 and reassembles them into a structure that can express one of these themes. The resulting plot doesn't follow conventional logic. It's a narrative driven by emotional causality, where events happen to reinforce the core feeling, not to make literal sense. But why the brain defaults to these specific themes or where they originate is something that remains a scientific frontier. However, some have journeyed far enough to offer us clues. Level 4 is where dreams begin to feel different. They stop feeling like something generated from you and start feeling like they are being presented to you. This is the level of recurring characters, uncanny premonitions of real places, and encounters with what feel like autonomous entities. But more than anything, this level is defined by a sense of your experience being guided by an unseen hand. Online accounts offer strange examples. One person might describe a mysterious guide,
who appears in their dreams during times of crisis, offering cryptic advice before disappearing. Another might dream of a specific, intricately detailed building they've never seen, noting its architecture, street name, and surroundings, only to stumble upon that exact place in real life years later. In both scenarios, the dream is experienced from a first-person perspective, yet the guide and the building feel like independent, external forces. But are these just isolated anecdotes? Not at all. A search through the massive DreamBank database reveals persistent reports of being chased. Sometimes the pursuer is a stranger, sometimes a known person. The chase might be on foot or in a vehicle.
This theme is so pervasive that it consistently ranks among the top 3 most common nightmares, and is the single most frequent recurring one. Furthermore, it is almost always accompanied by an inability to escape. The dreamer's legs feel like they are moving through molasses, or they trip and are inevitably caught. The dreamer is actively fighting to get away, and yet, much like the other examples, the outcome feels predetermined. I believe this is because dream elements can operate on multiple levels simultaneously. We know level 4 is where the brain tries to derive meaning from the structured emotions of the previous level. This meaning comes in 2 forms. There is a surface layer that is subjective and personal, shaped by your unique experiences and memories. Then there is a deeper layer that is universal and archetypal, molded by millions of years of evolutionary pressure and our shared neural wiring. Typically, the surface details of a dream, the specific people, the setting, the plot points, are drawn from the personal layer. Meanwhile, the emotional gravity, those 5 core themes, originates from the deeper, collective layer. In your dream, both are active at once. To manage this, your brain uses what are known as emergent attractor networks. In simple terms, these are stable patterns of neural activity that arise from the way neurons are connected. This gives them 2 crucial properties. They represent consistent concepts that can be recalled reliably, yet they are flexible enough to incorporate new information. The flexible aspect is your personal contribution to the dream, while the stable, unchanging part is where the elements beyond your control reside. For instance, in a nightmare about being chased, the pursuer might represent a recent conflict from your personal life, but the act of being chased itself taps into the universal, primal fear of an inescapable threat. In the example of the mysterious guide, the figure might reappear whenever the dreamer faces a familiar emotional challenge. But on the stable, archetypal layer, it symbolizes a part of themselves they need to integrate. In essence, the lack of full control provides the stable framework needed to make the dream interpretable, while the malleable details are colored by your own life. Still, Level 4 is where dream science currently reaches its limits, so this is interpretation based on the available data. But this is not the final destination. There are dreams in which you are fully aware you are dreaming, and that awareness unlocks a passage to a completely different reality. It is an uncommon state, but for those who reach Level 5, something extraordinary occurs: lucid dreaming. This is when you are inside a dream while being fully conscious of the fact that you are dreaming. When this goes well, it can be exhilarating. You can fly, walk through solid objects, or consciously interact with your subconscious mind. But when it goes wrong, it is uniquely terrifying. Awareness does not always grant you control, and when that control is lost, 2 experiences are reported above all others: confrontations with hostile dream characters and becoming trapped in a false awakening loop. In the first scenario, as detailed in numerous reports, a person becomes lucid and attempts to inform the figures in their dream that they are not real. In benign cases, the characters simply ignore them. But in unsettling cases, they become hostile, sometimes turning in unison to stare silently at the dreamer, or screaming things like, "You are not allowed to be here," before lunging forward. No one knows why this happens. The only physiological marker we have for lucid dreams is the reactivation of parts of the prefrontal cortex, the seat of rational thought. But that lucidity can become a prison in the second experience. As the reports describe, a person wakes up in their bed and begins their day. They get up, go to the bathroom, and look at the clock. Everything seems normal until they notice the numbers on the clock are melting or arranged in an impossible sequence. The moment they realize this, they wake up. Again. A wave of relief washes over them. It was just a dream within a dream. So they start their morning routine once more. But this time, when they pick up their phone, the screen is blank. So they panic and wake up. Again. Now highly suspicious, they perform a reality check, like pushing a finger against their palm. To their horror, it passes right through. Suddenly, they wake up. This time, for real. For those who have endured this, the cycle can repeat 5, 6, even 7 times, with each dream layer becoming more indistinguishable from reality. It is a frightening concept, because all we have to go on are these first-hand accounts.
Some theorists propose these experiences arise from the inherent conflict of a conscious mind existing within the closed system of an unconscious simulation. Others believe the looping is the brain's attempt to sync waking signals with dream input, flipping through layers until they finally align. Regardless, this is the final, deepest level of dreaming as we currently understand it. It opens more doors than it closes, leaving us with more questions than answers. But perhaps, in time, we will learn to navigate these hidden worlds. Thanks for watching.